بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وبارك إلى يوم الدين. So we have maybe 3 or 4 sessions left for this course to be concluded. Today we'll go through inshallah hadith number 35 and 36. Then you have 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. So you have basically 3 more sessions aside from today would be taken. I may be able to get them in a smaller, like in maybe 3 sessions, but technically speaking, I need 4 sessions to conclude the series, inshallah ta'ala. It'll be way before the end of April, so you have enough time. I would advise you to go back and listen or revise your notes, because Ramadan is I had another group that I had an exam after Ramadan and they all failed because none of them remembered anything after Ramadan, so I had to give them another month. So go make sure and you revise what if you attended the course and you want to continue provide the exam, make sure that you revise kind of the sessions that happen before Ramadan. Ramadan is always going to come in a semester and make the semester a little bit more difficult for us to run the sessions within. But that would be my advice to you, inshallah ta'ala. So today, hadith number 35. يقول الماتن رحمه الله ونفعنا بعلمه الإمام النووي عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم لا تحاسدوا ولا تناجشوا ولا تباغضوا ولا تدابروا ولا يبيع بعضكم على بيع بعض وكونوا عباد الله إخوانا المسلم أخو المسلم لا يظلمه ولا يخذله ولا يكذبه ولا يحقره التقوى ها هنا ويشير إلى صدره 3 مرات التقوى ها هنا التقوى ها هنا بحسب امرئ من الشر أن يحقر أخاه المسلم كل المسلم على المسلم حرام دمه وماله وعرضه. So one of the most famous and most powerful ahadith of the entirety of the Prophet ﷺ's collections, on a social level, on an ummah level, on a personal level, on an ethical level, it hits so many points. It's an impossible hadith to explain in a session or 2 or 3 or 4. Honestly, it's a full. I had one of my teachers, I remember, gave a full series of khutbahs for 3 months straight on this hadith. Just every week talking about a piece of it, subhanallah. And still, there was more to go by, but he's got scared people would get bored. People got bored maybe 2 months before prior, but that's the reality of how people attention span works. So, and the hadith narrated by Imam Muslim anhu, and narrated to us by Abu Hurairah, where the Prophet ﷺ says, "La tahasadu." Do not envy one another. So when you have that linguistic derivative, where the word is tafa'alu, right? So hasad is envy. La tahsid, don't envy. Right? Tahsid, envy. Don't envy, la tahsid. When you say la tahasad, meaning don't engage in envy with other people envying you back. La tahasadu, all of you together, don't engage in acts of envying one another. So fi'il, fa'ala, and then tafa'ala. It requires 2 people to do it. Right? That's why وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Tawasaw means both are giving advice. It's not just one person giving advice to the other. Everyone's giving advice to everybody. So I'm advising you, and you are also advising me. Bilhaq and بالصبر. So that's the kind of the root of the word. So he's not saying that don't envy people. He's talking to the ummah. Don't envy one another. Don't engage in envy. Don't do things that will make people envy you, and don't envy people. So kill envy off as much as possible, and that requires a lot of finesse, by the way, because hasad is a big part of hasad. He has a very solid logical understanding of what it is. Like, it's a very practical act. It's not. We have turned it into a mystical, magical thing. We really have. We've turned it into something very out of this world type of behavior. No, it's very, very solid. It's very practical and very pragmatic. When you envy someone, you stop wanting goods for them. You stop seeing the good in them. You start building some degree of resentment towards them. You start wishing or hoping for them to fail. You start waiting for them to fail. You start searching for their failures. You participate in their failures if you have a subtle way of doing it. That's what hasad is. Hasad starts with a little bit of discomfort regarding someone else's success or someone else's fortune in life, a little bit of discomfort somewhere inside of you that will slowly move forward into an active participation in their demise, in harming them. Hasad will lead people to harm others, like to lead a person to harm someone else or to say something about them. And the story I tell that to help you understand it is that like someone, like a lady came and said, well, am I, not to me, but like it's just a scenario. Like a lady says, well, my son, khatab, and he didn't get the, she left him, and it happened because of hasad. Now her understanding of it is very mystical, right? But no, it was from hasad. But here's how, right? The how is that there was someone who envied him, and he envied him for years, envied, and didn't like him. And then when he went in khatab, the father picked up the phone and happened to call that guy. And he asked him how he was. And he told him, well, I don't want to tell you something. Well, I don't want to hurt the guy or stab him in the back. But since you're asking, and they said something bad about him, and the guy got spooked and he didn't give him his daughter. So she's right. It was hasad that ruined it, but it's not the way she thinks it did. It's not the way she imagines hasad actually ruined it. It's more the practical way of how hasad actually ruins things all the time. Whereas when people envy each other, they can't work with each other. They can't collaborate. They don't actually have a genuine love to see them succeed. That's a big problem. It's a big problem to be working with others or seeing people around you and secretly hoping they fail. This is one of the most problematic diseases of the heart. If you are looking at someone and deep inside you're hoping it doesn't work out, you're hoping that they fail, you're hoping that they don't actually succeed, and it doesn't work for them, and when you find out that no, it actually worked out, it was great, you feel bad. That's هذه مشكلة. This is a big problem. It's a big problem that not in them and you. If you have that feeling, if you're feeling about people that way, right? And you should not let it go unchecked. Like you cannot just allow it to happen. If you feel that way about someone, you have to go back and think, why do I feel this way? Why did I secretly wish that it didn't work out? And if it didn't work out, I would come and show real empathy and support them. But I'm happier that it didn't work out than I would have been had it actually worked out. I bashum. Wallahi. You should be ashamed of yourself when that's the part. When it happens, be ashamed of yourself for a moment. Sit there and just look at yourself in the mirror and how could you possibly allow that how do you allow that to happen inside of you? How do you allow yourself to hope someone else to fail? It's the only way you have to turn this into an act of disgust. I'm telling you how to fix it. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm trying to tell this is how you fix it. You have to look at yourself in disgust when you allow yourself to envy someone else. There's no other way to rid yourself of this marad. This is why I don't talk about it in tazkiyah until very late on, because people aren't ready for it yet. But there's no other way. You have to see the act of envy as an act, a disgusting act that you do not be a part of. And it's beneath you. And if you do it, you have to hold yourself strictly accountable. Like strictly accountable. You have to really come down on yourself, because this is something you don't want to exist inside of. يا أخي الله سبحانه وتعالى يوفق ويفتح. شو شغلك أنت? Why are you خزائن ملاني سبحانه وتعالى is full of reservoirs of khayr for people. Why are you upset that he gave fulan some of it or a lot of it, or gave you more than what you would like them to have, or more than you? Why are you upset? That shouldn't exist. Now you can come and tell me, but I can't fix your problems. You have to figure this out. The way the shuyukh used to teach us to figure this out is that you have to treat hasad with disgust. You have to, and that is when it's about dunya, obviously. When it's about akhirah, that's a bit more difficult. If you become hasad, you tahsud insan because they memorize the Quran or because they're doing good deeds, that's another problem altogether. That's actually where tazkiyah comes in, and we talk about it. I don't even waste time talking about hasad about dunya, because that's a waste of time. You have to be disgusted of that and get rid of it quickly, because dunya is not worth having hasad. But then akhirah, that's where you have to bring in all your tazkiyah tools. Why is it that I'm upset that fulan is seems closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than me, when that should actually make me happy, and I should benefit from that, because the goal is that we all come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a whole way of thinking about it. All right, so that's the first thing he said, la tahasadu, and really that's the first thing he said in this hadith. Wala tanajashu, do not inflate prices for one another. Meaning, don't harm people. Like, don't manipulate people. Don't abuse their vulnerability. That's really what najash is when you abuse someone's vulnerability. They're weak, so you're going to capitalize on the fact that they're weak at this moment, right? You're not going to treat them fairly. You're not going to give them a fair shake because you know that they're vulnerable. So you abuse that immediately. And that's what it means. It's taken in the context of selling and buying. So don't inflate prices. But really what it means, in the essence of the root of the word is do not abuse people's vulnerability. وَلَا تَبَاغَضُوا, and do not hate one another. وَلَا تَدَابَرُوا, and do not run away or turn your backs on one another. I mean, don't betray one another. Tadabur is when you turn your back on someone. I mean, they need you and you turn your back on them, and you don't offer them the help that they need and the support that they require. وَلَا تَدَابَرُوا, and don't turn your back on one another. وَلَا يَبِعْ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَيْعِ بَعْضٍ, do not undercut one another in trade. Don't try that, and that's why the Najashu is abusing vulnerability, or else he's saying the same thing twice. Alayhi salatu wasalam. He never does. Like he never says the same thing twice. Here he said very clearly, لا يبيع بعضكم على بيع بعض. Don't try to manipulate prices and rip people off out of their wealth. وكونوا عباد الله إخوانا. And عباد Allah here is a nida. He's calling upon them. And be, O servants of Allah, إخوانا, brothers and sisters. Right, so it's not wakunu ibad and be the servants of Allah. No, be servants of Allah. And this is, I don't know if is that how they explain it here. Rather be slaves of Allah and brothers. Yeah, maybe not exactly, but ibad Allah is a munada, meaning it's wakunu ya ibad Allahi ikhwan. That's the taqdeer. That's what the ya is just missing from the wording. It's understood with the context. So he's saying, oh servants of Allah, be brothers and sisters. Al-Muslimu akhul Muslim. The Muslim is the brother of the Muslim. لا يظلمه, he does not oppress him. ولا يخذله, he does not fail him. ولا يكذبه, he does not lie to him. ولا يحقره, and he does not look down on him. These four should be the anthem of every Muslim in the world. This is how you should see yourself in connection with every Muslim. لا تظلمه, ولا تخذله ولا تكذبه ولا تحقره. You don't oppress them, you don't fail them or fail to support them or turn your back on them. You do not lie to them or tell them something that's untrue to manipulate them, and you do not look down on them and mistreat them and treat as if they're below you. These four things should never occur from a Muslim towards another Muslim ever. If you hold yourself to this in your life, you will go very far. You may find that you have not been doing it right. If you just focus on these four for the next week or so, and you'll find that it's not always the case. That often things may slip. That these four are not as solid as they should be. At-taqwa ha huna. So he would go like this. This is one of the hadith that have an action attached to them. There's a hadith fi'liya, meaning when you narrate the hadith, you have to make a movement with it, right? Because he did it, alayhi salam, or the rawi of the hadith did. So one of the hadith that we narrated, and I forgot to actually talk about it because it was so long and we were so late, that long hadith where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks, Ibn Adam, maridtu lam ta'udni, that long hadith, that whenever this hadith was narrated, you get on your knees and narrate it. فكان سالم وسفيان, they would get on their knees, and this hadith, whenever it's narrated, when you narrate it in public, you get on your knees and you narrate it in that. Why? Because it's the word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking to his creation. So there's a hadith marwiya bil a'mal, they're narrated and there's a movement. But this one here, the Prophet ﷺ like this, at-taqwa ha huna. At-taqwa ha huna. It's in your heart. Taqwa is something that is, what does he mean by that? It's invisible. That's what he's trying to say. That's all he's trying to say here. It's not visible. It's not something that you can measure. It's not measurable. I can't know what you have. And because it's the only parameter, it's the only metric for how you're going to do Yawm al-Qiyamah, and how much favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you have, and how much advantage you have Yawm al-Qiyamah in the eyes of Allah. It's the only thing that ranks people Yawm al-Qiyamah is taqwa. And because you don't know it, you can't judge anybody. And you can't mistreat people. You can't, because taqwa is something hidden. It's in the heart, so no one knows. So no one can say I'm better than fulan, or I'm ahead of fulan, or this is no, because the taqwa it's not, you can't see it. And if you can't see it, you can't judge it. And if you can't judge it, then you can't decide anything based on it. And then you just have to leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that brings us back to the teachings. لا تحاسدوا لا تناجشوا لا تباغضوا. Don't, because you never know. You harm one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's awliya. You harm someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves more than you. You betray someone whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves more than you, or cares for more than you, then you've compromised yourself. You have compromised yourself forever because now you went against someone whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees to be higher than you. What are you going to do with that? Well, I thought he doesn't pray. You don't know the taqwa. You don't know how his life ends. You don't know what he's going to do in the next 10 years and what you're going to do in the next 10 years. You have no idea. Taqwa, how is something hidden in the heart. You don't know what amount they have and what amount they're going to have when they die either. You don't know any of it. It's a scary thing. So you hold off. بِحَسْبِ امْرِئٍ مِّنَ الشَّرِّ. And if this hadith had nothing aside from this amazing piece of wisdom, then it would be enough. Subhanallah. بِحَسْبِ امْرِئٍ مِّنَ الشَّرِّ أَنْ يَحْقِرَ أَخَاهُ الْمُسْلِمَ. بِحَسْبِ, al-hasb is something, you say hasbun Allah. Allah is enough for me, right? Hasb it's enough. So if you're pouring me أقول حسبك, enough. If you're reading Quran, I say hasbuk, then you'll stop. So hasb is that something's enough. There's no need for any more. So when he says bihasbi imri'in, it's enough. Meaning this person has their fill. This bihasbi imri'in. This person has their fill of what? Min ash-sharr, of evil. They have filled themselves. They have filled their evil container to the top. And there's no more room. There's no more evil that they can actually carry with them. What did they do? أن يحقر أخاه المسلم. To look down on his Muslim brother. To look down on them, on people. To see people less than you. بحسب امرئ من الشر. Meaning there's no room for more evil. خلاص, you've fulfilled. خلاص, you've done enough evil for the day. Like there's nothing else. What else are you going to do? What more evil could you do? This is بحسب امرئ من الشر. It fulfilled their quota of evil for the day. And يحقر أخاه المسلم, just to look down on someone else, to think that somehow they are beneath you. This is why we talk about these tazkiyah concepts and we explain them. This is why we keep on repeating them time and time again. Because if you perform the actions and you nod the nods and you move the moves and you say the words, but then deep down inside you look down on people and you feel that they're beneath you and you stand there and you're disgusted of them and you don't want to be there with them. You want to be seen with them. You don't want to deal with them because there's something else. Well, what shar? There's no shar left. You've done all the shar you could do. And what's the point of all the other stuff that you're doing? This is there. And it's not the problem. This just becomes ظاهر. This becomes a surah. It's a picture. Hiding behind it loads of garbage. Because بحسب امرئ من الشر. That's what he said عليه الصلاة والسلام. كل المسلم على المسلم حرام. Everything about a Muslim is sacred to another Muslim. Haram as in is sacred, it's holy. Inviolable is the way they can translate it, which is a good translation. But the word haram, when it's referring to actions, then that's a hukm fiqhi. When referring to actions, right? So I did this, it was haram. That's a jurisprudent ruling. Okay? But when I'm not referring to actions, I can't say this is haram. This is not an action. This is a thing. So you can't say that, right? So when you describe something as haram or someone as haram or a place as haram, you're describing it as sacred, as a place that you cannot, or a thing or something that you cannot touch. It's holy. You're not allowed to transgress against it. The action is haram because this action was something you should have never done, because it's a line you shouldn't have crossed. It's a line you shouldn't have crossed. You're not allowed to do that. These things are haram, meaning these are sacred. You're not allowed to harm them or take them or do anything about them because they're sacred. And this takes the concept of human rights and ownership and all that from a legal domain to a religious one. Like it changes the conversation. Legally, this is not yours. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes it one step further. It's not just legally not yours. It is divinely not yours. It's sacred. To you, it's sacred, something that you cannot touch. You can't come near. Now, so you go to al-balad al-haram, like Mecca. It's balad haram. You can't hunt an animal. You can't do anything. You cannot yell at someone. You can't harm. So you can't get married. Nothing. You can't do anything. Why? Because it's balad haram. This is a sacred land. This land is only for ibadah. It's only for pure service of the Haqq subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you come to the Ashhur al-Haram, the months that are haram. The Arabs, even those who had no ethics, wouldn't fight in Ashhur al-Haram. When Rajab entered, or when Dhul Qa'dah and Dhul Hijjah and Muharram entered, that's it. No one, everyone put their swords away and they went and sat home for the next 3 months because it's absolutely unacceptable. So the Prophet ﷺ took that concept that the Arab understood and said, كُلُّ الْمُسْلِمِ عَلَى الْمُسْلِمِ. Every aspect of the Muslim regarding another Muslim is sacred. Damuhu, their physical well-being, wamaluhu, their assets, their financial well-being, wa'irduhu, and their reputation and their honor, and their family. And of course, he said this alayhi salatu wasalam, that last khutbah that he gave during khutbah al-wada, and every year before Hajj, in a few months, yeah, we'll be doing it. I always feel like it's yesterday that I was telling you that, he'll come back and we'll narrate his khutbah alayhi salatu wasalam. We'll say the exact same words. He stood in front of 100,000 people before he died, 3 months before he passed away, and said, this is it. You don't do that. You don't harm people. Why? Because once you harm people, you're on your own. You're on your own. You can come and ask me whatever you want. I have no answer for you. You can go listen to a sheikh's fatwa and no one can help you. When you don't pray or you don't fast or you don't praise, this is a haqq between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will forgive you. He always does, subhanahu wa ta'ala. You repent, you correct your ways, you fix things, it'll work out. But once you harm another human being, you are now at their mercy till the end of time. And you can ask me, well, how do I fix this? I don't know. I'll give you some suggestions, but I don't know. And no one does. Because this is, they have to forgive you. But what if they don't forgive me? But what if I do this? I don't try. You can try. That's a good idea. Will it work? I don't know. Inshallah it does. But you want certainty in the answer. I'm like, I don't know. Habibi, I don't know. No one does, because you crossed a red line that you should have never crossed. You crossed the line now, and this is not, it's a problem. But people obviously still make it. People who perform these actions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves them Yawm al-Qiyamah, and people forgive them. And there are ways. I'm just telling you that now you're in a very scary area. We all should feel that way, because there's not one person sitting here who has not harmed someone at some point. It's impossible. You can't live your life without harming someone. Even in your early days, it's a part of being alive. It's only now, maybe in your life, where you wake up to this, and then you spend the rest of your days being very careful never to harm a soul, right? But in your early years, you must have harmed people that you can't find anymore. You can't go back and fix it, right? You can't go and there's nothing to do. What if you rip them off financially, or an accident happened and someone died? You can't resurrect people. You can't fix things. All you can do is make dua and give sadaqah and hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intervenes on your behalf Yawm al-Qiyamah and saves you. There's nothing else to do. كل المسلم على المسلم حرام دمه وماله. This is why this hadith is so heavy. There's no lahu in this hadith. There's not one word that's there to make a filler. There's no fillers in this hadith. The only filler is ya ibadallah. That's it. And he doesn't even put the ya in. He didn't even put the ya in. He left it out. There's no fillers in this hadith. Why? Because there's no room for you to be distracted from it. لا تحاسدوا لا تناجشوا لا تباغضوا لا تدابروا لا يبيع بعضكم على بيع بعض كونوا عباد الله المسلم أخو المسلم لا يظلمه ولا يخذله ولا يكذبه ولا يحقره. Repeating the same thing. دمه كله عليه حرام دمه ماله عرضه. So the unity and the brotherhood of Muslims is a point that I think, obviously, that is clear in this hadith. Very, the togetherness of the Muslim ummah is very important. How do you preserve it? لا تحاسدوا لا تناجشوا لا تباغضوا. If we are envying one another, if we are betraying one another, if we are lying to one another, if we are manipulating one another, if we are abusing each other's vulnerability, then what is left? What are you talking about? Like, how could you can't argue brotherhood when that's what's happening. It's impossible. It's an extremely difficult thing to imagine when you're trying to explain brotherhood or unity or closeness or togetherness when people are doing these things. If you oppress people, if you look down on them, if you lie to them. The second piece is understanding taqwa. I talked to you about that for a moment. Taqwa is a huge Islamic concept. This hadith is extremely, extremely profound. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. But just understand taqwa is it's a hidden piece. It's a part of you. It is a behavior that you stick to, or you ask yourself the question always: does this please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The answer is yes. You don't do it. But how much of that awareness you have in your heart is what he's talking about, alayhi salatu wasalam. How much commitment to that concept that you have in your heart is something that no one knows. But that's what Allah's looking at. How much do you care? How much do you care about what your next step is? This something that pleases Allah or displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do you care about that? Is that the number one care? Or are there other things that take precedence above it? If we pinch you in the right way, it'll be deranked or demoted, and something else will become much more important than that in your decision-making process. So only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how important that question is and how important that concept is to a person. And it's what He's going to judge us about Yawm al-Qiyamah. Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. Hands down, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. And the reason that you do the good deeds that you do is to try and prove it. Like you're trying to prove that you have taqwa to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by performing all these good deeds that you're performing. Because if you're not doing the right thing, then it's easy to prove that you had no taqwa. Right? But you still have to make sure that it exists actually on the inside. The evil of looking down on others, and I think that piece is clear. That's what he said, alayhi sallam. It's very rare that he uses, this is a very exclusive wording. And it leaves very little room to discuss anything else or to interpret it in any other way. The worst thing you can do is basically saying, the worst thing that you can do is you look down on someone, and yahqir, to feel that they are less than you, or to feel that they're not worth the time, or that be very careful of that. So, I mean, I've explained all this to you, so I'm leaving it for here to help you kind of remind yourself of the root of taqwa comes from prevention or protection. Wiqaya is the preventative. Tibb al-wiqa'i, preventative medicine, for example, it's all about protection and prevention. It's a systematic approach to making decisions. You ask yourself the right question every time. It's not, does it please Allah? No, that's a big question. That's a higher level of wilaya. It's just, does it not please? And then don't do it if the answer is yes. It's a state of mindfulness where you have to be mindful enough of God to ask yourself that question every time, or else you won't answer the question at all. Just do it, and then you'll go back and wonder, oh, no, what I made the mistake. I didn't. Well, yeah, that's what taqwa is. You ask yourself the question beforehand, not after. You don't come and tell me, I already did it. I did it already. So now what? I don't know. Why didn't you come and ask me before you did it? That required taqwa. That's the whole point. With taqwa, you would have asked the question beforehand, and maybe then hit the brakes and came and said, "I don't know, should I do this?" And you get advice. It requires long-term and short-term planning, and the goal of most acts of worship is to achieve taqwa. Because the more acts of worship you do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more mindful of Allah you become. Because He's every part of your life. In your money, in your food and drink, in your time with salah, with every part of your life is mindfulness of God. So it's easy to fill in the gaps with that mindfulness. It's an ongoing process. But if it's not there, then you don't think about Him very often. You don't think about Him very often, then you're not going to ask yourself the right questions, and you're not going to make the right decisions. And then you're going to end up in the wrong place. So what's the hadith mutawatir? So this hadith is not mutawatir, and when I talked about these aspects of ilm al-hadith, I'm just giving a little bit of an introduction of how hadith are looked at. So this hadith is not mutawatir, but I'm just going to talk about it tawatur now, just as a concept. So it's a successive narration conveyed by narrators so numerous that it's not conceivable that they have agreed upon an untruth, and it's not questionable. So hadith mutawatir is basically a hadith that has a large number of people who are narrating the hadith in every level of the chain, right? So every level of the chain, I'm not sure if I have an example of this, I probably don't know. So there's only maybe 20, 30 hadith that are mutawatir. That's it. What the example of tawatur is Quran. Quran is mutawatir because 1,000 of the Sahaba gave it to a few thousand of the Tabi'een, who gave it to a number, 100,000 of the Tabi'een. And then until this day, the smallest, the bottleneck is Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, right? Because he received it. He's the bottleneck. Everything after that is large numbers. So hadith mutawatir is where you have at least 3 or more per level of chain of narration, per level. If you have 10 Sahaba who narrated it to 10 Tabi'een, to 10 tabi'in, and then one person or 2 people narrated it to 10 and 10 and 10, this is not mutawatir because there's a bottleneck with only 2 people. So this is ahad now. It's a hadith of just 1 or 2 people. It doesn't count as mutawatir. Why? Because the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Any chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if it bottlenecks that one person, it's ahad. It's not a wrong. We will use it, and it has value in its evidence. It can be sahih. But tawatur is where there's no conceivable way that this was lied about. Why? Because too many people told us this, and that's how a lot of historical events get. So these ideas that historians will come and say, "Oh, this person didn't exist." You're like, whatever you did. This was mutawatir, meaning everyone who. Hundreds of thousands of people who lived there saw this person and then told others, "What are you talking about? You can't." Well, no one, because no one wrote it. That's not. People didn't write anything until maybe the 2nd century of Islamic, the Islamic Empire. People started writing stuff. It was very rare for people to write things and document things. But there are things that happened. We know because it just kept on. It comes through large chains of narration. People in the hundreds are telling us, or the thousands are telling us that this happened, or that this occurred. Like, for example, the story of Al-Fil to the Prophet, mutawatir. That's why this ayah says, Alam tara. Do you not see? No. The answer is no, I didn't see. not with your eyes, but it's as if you did, because every person you've met in your life saw it, because you were just being born at that point. But every old ammu in your life, and every older person told you, yeah, that's what happened. We were in the mountains, we saw the birds. And so if it's just one person, one crazy guy, and you drunk half the time telling you, then yeah, that's a problem. But if every person is telling you, then for you to question that is there's no, see, these are self-evident truths. You can't, if we're going to start questioning that, there's no point of having a conversation anymore. Might as well just stop talking, because it's not worth doing anymore. So mutawatir is where every chain of narration has a sufficient number of, what's the sufficient number for hadith? That's differed upon. That is differed upon. Some go as low as 3, and some go as high as 10, what they require. And depending on how low and high they go, they will have, so probably the most famous collection is the collection of Imam al-Maqdisi, and similarly Imam al-Suyuti. And they have like their 2 collections where they put the hadith mutawatira that they believe to be mutawatir. And of course, these books have been heavily studied, and the scholars who came later broke them down and said, no, this is not mutawatir, there's a bottleneck here, bottleneck there. So even, whatever they put in their books was cut down by 50% easily for both of them. So you have a very few number of hadith that are mutawatir to the Prophet ﷺ, but they're there. But more importantly is the second part of tawatur that I put here. I know this is from Wikipedia. It's very simple, but it's actually very accurate. So I just put it there for you, not out of laziness, because it's there, it's available, and you don't really need to. Like, I find that sometimes not information is readily available, so you just don't read it. So mutawatir al-ma'nawi is actually very simple. You have very few tawatur lafzi, which is where the wording is narrated in a mutawatir method, but you have a lot of tawatur ma'nawi. So what is tawatur ma'nawi? For example, the hadith of النية إنما الأعمال بالنيات is a hadith ahad. It bottlenecks at least with Sayyidina al-Khattab. Like the wording of that hadith bottlenecks at him, radiyallahu anhu, right? And there's another level in the narration where it bottlenecks is again. Someone who's very, very trustworthy, but again, it bottlenecks. So this hadith is ahad. In the Bukhari, Muslim, it's ahad. But the concept of niyyah is mutawatir. Understand? The concept of niyyah, because there are so many ahadith narrated by different people that talk about the importance and significance of intention. Different wordings, the same idea. So the idea of niyyah and its significance is mutawatir. We know that. We have no doubt about that. The wording of innama amalu bin-niyyat is ahad, is not mutawatir. You understand the difference? So you can take a hadith and say, the hadith of لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. The person who has a little bit of kibr does not enter Jannah. That's a hadith ahad. The concept of arrogance being a reason for people's demise is mutawatir. Why? Because we have it in the Quran everywhere, and he talks about it alayhi sallam 100 times. And it's narrated to us by all. If this was, by the way, is the sound going that way? Do we need to mute for? I don't ask them if they need to mute. Okay, sorry. Sometimes they don't mute for the front if they're getting tired of me talking. Then they want to mute it. So tawatur al-ma'nawi is abundant in Islam. There's a lot of topics that are tawatur al-ma'nawi, meaning I know for sure that this issue is of great importance in our deen, and has heavy. And sometimes people don't know the difference, and they don't know how to deal with that difference. And that difference is very important in Islam, very important in Islam, because sometimes there'll be a concept, the hadith is ahad, but the concept is also ahad. I mean, the concept itself is only talked about once or twice in our deen. On the other hand, this hadith may be ahad, but the concept is not. And then they equate between, oh, this hadith is equal to this hadith. Not really, because this concept is talked about only in this hadith. But this concept is talked about in a million other ones. So this concept is way heavier than this one. And that requires, obviously, a bit more profound knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet. So I'm just saying that to you, because, for example, the Dhuhr is arba rakat. The hadith of that is ahad. It's like a hadith in Collection Imam Ahmad, with the bottleneck almost every single layer of the hadith, right? But it's a mutawatir ma'nawi. The hadith itself is ahad, but the Muslims have carried this piece of information down from one generation to the other for thousands of years by the hundreds of thousands, right? The Sahaba did every single day. And the Tabi'in did every single day. We don't need this hadith being there, not being there doesn't make a difference. This is mutawatir ma'nawi. This arrived to us through a different type of tawatur. So that's just the concept I want to explain to you, because it's important to know that exists in Islam, because most people don't even know that exists. They're just looking for the wording. The wording may or not have that, but the concepts, there are many of them that do. All right, let's take ourselves to hadith number 36. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال: من نفس عن مؤمن كربة من كرب الدنيا نفس الله عنه كربة من كرب يوم القيامة. ومن يسر على معسر يسر الله عليه في الدنيا والآخرة. ومن ستر مسلما ستره الله في الدنيا والآخرة. والله في عون العبد ما كان العبد في عون أخيه. ومن سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. وما اجتمع قوم في بيت من بيوت الله يتلون كتاب الله ويتدارسونه فيما بينهم إلا نزلت عليهم السكينة وغشيتهم الرحمة وحفتهم الملائكة وذكرهم الله في من عنده. ومن أبطأ به عمله لم يسرع به نسبه. رواه مسلم بهذا اللفظ. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. How am I supposed to explain this hadith in a session or two or three or four? The amount of wisdom in these words is worthy of the rest of your life, just to write it down on a piece of paper and carry it around with you and just read it every day and see what you come up with as you go on for the next 2-3 years easily. Wallahi, easily. Every single piece of this is just a gem that we could spend the rest of our days just sitting, gathering and talking about and benefiting from. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ajma'in. قال من نفس عن مؤمن كربة. Whoever removes a worldly grief or difficulty from the difficulties of this dunya, نفس الله عنه كربة من كرب يوم القيامة. Allah will remove a grief in the akhirah for him. So if you see someone who is in a musibah, who is worried and upset and tired and is extremely anxious and bothered by something, and you come and you relieve that pain, you do that, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a moment where you're going to be scared and in pain and distressed and upset, and He will come and He'll remove it for you, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this changes the equation. So now you instead of getting upset that people are coming to ask for you, you're looking for them. You're looking for someone who has a musibah, someone who's not doing well, not so that you can enjoy it, you can remove it for them. So you can remove this. Ibn Abbas he was a very famous person towards his older life, obviously. And people would come and ask him a lot of questions. Some of his students would say, don't you get tired of this? فقل الحمد لله الذي ساقه الله إلي ليفرج بها عني كربة يوم القيامة. I said, you say, Alhamdulillah, that Allah sent this person towards me so I could fix a problem for him, so that he would fix a problem for the Yawm al-Qiyamah. So I don't have to deal with the difficulty of Yawm al-Qiyamah. It's a whole different way of seeing life, and philanthropy and service and community work and, et cetera, et cetera. May Allah make us amongst those people, inshallah, because it's a beautiful thing. وَمَنْ يَسَّرَ عَلَى مُعْسِرٍ. And whoever alleviates the needs of a needy person. So, kurba is when there's a musibah. Mu'sir is someone who's poor. Mu'sir, they just don't have enough wealth. They're trying to make something right. So kurba could be any musibah. They need any form of intervention. Mu'sir is someone who is doesn't have wealth. Yassara ala mu'sir, you alleviated like a financial problem. You gave them money, and yassara Allahu alayhi fi dunya wal akhirah. Allah will alleviate their needs in both. This one you get both in dunya and akhirah. The first one was the deal was just akhirah. You remove a musibah from in dunya, we'll remove a musibah for yawm al-qiyamah. Someone who's a financial musibah, because that's the worst of all. When you're lying in bed and you don't know if you're gonna, if you can't make ends meet, you're not gonna be able to take care of your children or yourself, and you're lying in bed. It's the worst feeling ever. If you come and you tuyassir ala mu'sir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for you in both dunya and akhirah. So it's a better deal even. وَمَنْ سَتَرَ مُسْلِمًا, whoever shields or hides or sitr. Or satr is to remove, or to conceal, the awrah of someone else. And awrah is not just a physical awrah; it's any awrah. Anything you don't want people to see is awrah. Any part of your life or your personal existence that you don't want people to actually know about is awrah. And we as Muslims, we respect that. We respect people's privacy more than any other probably ideology in the world. Where no, you're not allowed to look for those things, and you find that out, you should never talk about it. And if you do, then you're going to be lashed. If you talk about someone's awrah, they do tajassus, and you go ahead and you spy, or you try to find it out. No, fine. وَمَنْ سَتَرَ مُسْلِمًا سَتَرَهُ اللَّهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. If you conceal the musibah or the awrah of a Muslim, someone who got exposed for a moment, they got vulnerable, and something of their vulnerability now was exposed, and you concealed it, you shielded it for them, and you hid it for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shield your awrah yawm al-qiyamah and in dunya. In dunya and akhirah. And also the deal is in both. Sitr is so important. It's such an important Islamic concept. We should definitely take it much more seriously, especially in this era, where the whole point of this is just how easy fadiha can be. Just so easy, just tafdah people. Well, shouldn't they, if they're doing something wrong, be mafduh? No, they shouldn't. No. Conceal people's sins because you give them a way back. When you expose them, you ruin their lives, right? And they may not ever be able. I'm not talking about those who are harming others and oppressing others and spilling blood. I'm talking about people who are making mistakes. You ruin their lives forever. There was this horrible. I remember this. In Syria, they ran for like 15, 20 years easy, and they would bring thieves and criminals on TV. Like they would talk about like a crime and bring the criminal and put them on TV and have like a reporter, like after they've been beaten in a dungeon for God knows how long, and then they stand there and they say hatubna or whatever, and then we're but what would happen really is just that person and their family would have to relocate. That's all that happened. And all really happened is that this person and his family, khalas, after this, had to sell their house and go live somewhere else. They couldn't live there anymore. Because they're exposed forever. You see Ibn Fulan on TV, you see Akhu Fulan. Every time he walks into a place, he asks, how's your brother who was on TV? The thief, the rapist, the murderer. What's the point of this? So subhanAllah, even when there was public lashing, it was contained within a specific group. Right? Today with social media and TV and stuff, it goes way beyond whatever it was supposed to happen. Whatever it was supposed to carry before, it doesn't carry that anymore. Now it's an actual problem. فالستر يا اخواني, sitr, take that seriously. There are stories that I'll tell you about sitr that exist in the literature of Islamic history that you would find difficult, like you wouldn't agree with even. Like I'll tell you stories about scholars believed to be sitr and to be the right action and the right choice, and you wouldn't be okay with it. It's like, someone's cheating, you'd be absolutely appalled by it, right? Because we get so caught up sometimes with personal vendettas and the idea of catching someone who's doing something wrong. And when people cheat, they don't cheat on you. See, this whole thing about they're cheating. See, it's the wording now, because you say they cheated on me. No, they didn't. They cheated on themselves, Aini. They didn't cheat on you. How does someone cheat on you? Explain to me. Explain to me how the linguistics of this word works. Cheating is when how is that? So that's cheating. So cheating on, explain that. Explain that in English, how that works to begin with. And how would you explain that in Arabic? Arabic doesn't have that. Arabic doesn't even have that. It doesn't have the concept. The word khiyana doesn't even exist in marriage in Islamic wording. We made it up. We inherited it from the Catholics. The concept of khiyana, which is betrayal, only exists in war, and it doesn't exist in marriage. We don't use it. We came up with this in the last 100 to 200 years. We'd never used before. Read the Quran. It's not there. It's a whole different concept that's being used, right? Because it's not, you're betraying yourself. When you're doing that, you're performing haram, obviously, but it's not. It's a different outlook. I understand if you're not ready for it yet, but this is how it's seen. And Islam is a very specific. Sitr is way more important. It's way more important because lives get destroyed and families get destroyed, and the harm that happens it outweighs by far whatever goodness you think comes from all of it. But this is a discussion for another day. Wallahu fi awni al-abdi ma kana al-abdu fi awni akhihi. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be in the aid and support and help of his servant as long as his servant is in the aid and support of his brother. You can write that on a piece of paper or put it up instead of your degree on your wall. Wallahu fi awni al-abdi ma kana al-abdu fi awni akhihi. Allah will continue to support you and stand by you as long as you continue to do the same for the people around you. And this is the secret recipe for living well and living how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to live. He will support you, you support others. Support others so you get support. Just do that. Do that until you meet him. You'll be fine. There's nothing else. You don't need. He simplified alayhi salatu wasalam the whole story with just this word. All these things he talked about, he just summarized it for you. Just be in the awn of your akh. Just be there for them. Just support people and help them. And Allah will continue to do that for you in dunya and in akhirah. ومن سلك, and then he switches عليه الصلاة والسلام. He talks a little bit about knowledge. ومن سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما. Those who choose a path, a life path, طريقا as a life path. يلتمس فيه علما. Within that path, they're going to be lifelong learners. يلتمس فيه علما. They are in search. يلتمس, الالتماس is when لمس is to touch. يلتمس is you're looking for something. It's like you're blind, you can't see. But التمس, you're looking. So you chose a path where the path is based on iltimas. Like you're walking a path, but how are you walking that path? You're walking it with your feet, with your touch. You're looking for ilm. You find ilm, you do. This is the next place I'm going to go. You go over there. Now, where do I go next? You feel out to see if there's ilm, and you go there. Meaning, what's leading your path is your seeking of knowledge. Your life, that's how you're going to live till the day you die. Just keep on learning more. Whatever you know today, know more tomorrow, and then know more the day after, and continuously learn so that you can always calibrate for haqq. So you can always stay by the truth. Because the more you know, the more closer to the truth you are, and the farther away from falsehood and lies and ignorance you are. So the more you learn, the closer to the truth, and the more likely you are going to be able to stick to the truth for the rest of your life. So if you do that, من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما, if you take a path that is guided by your lifelong learning or knowledge seeking, سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. Allah will ease for you the path to Jannah. Meaning this path will continue after you die to Jannah. It leads right to paradise. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the barakah of that, inshallah. And to explain that, he said, وَمَنْ اجْتَمَعَ, and this is one of the reasons that we do what we do. وَمَنْ اجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ فِي بَيْتٍ مِّن بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ, and no group of people have ever gathered in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَتْلُونَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ, reciting his book, وَيَتَدَارَسُونَهُ فِي مَا بَيْنَهُم, and studying it amongst each other. Again, يتدارس, it's like تحاسد, تناجش. It's يتدارس, meaning people are studying amongst each other. Someone's explaining, others are asking, others are offering. Like it's a back and forth. There's a study going on. إلا, except نزلت عليهم السكينة. So sakina is tranquility or serenity. Except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will descend upon them tranquility. They will find sakina, which is what most people in masajid find. For the hour of the day that you're sitting in the masjid listening, you're calm, you're happy, it's quiet for a moment. You're listening to something that is, there's some alignment between the world, there's some synchrony in the world for a bit for yourself. نزلت عليهم السكينة وغشيتهم الرحمة. And mercy, الغشية is to smother something or envelope it, to completely cover it. وغشيتهم الرحمة, the mercy and compassion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will completely envelope them and smother them from every side. وحفتهم الملائكة, and they'll be surrounded with the malaika. وَذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِنْدَهُ, and Allah will speak of them amongst those who are in His presence, subhanahu wa ta'ala. The malaika and the anbiya and the shuhada and the siddiqeen, whoever has the delight or the honor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's presence, whatever that means, because I don't know what that means. Like in ذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ, Allah will speak of them as you speak of Him. Why? Because they're sitting in the dunya speaking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He'll speak of them. My ibad are doing this or doing that. And وَذَكَرَهُمْ, 4 things. If you come to the masjid and you sit there and you read the Quran or you study it with someone else, what we're doing, you do the ilm. What we're doing, we're studying the Quran just through the words of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ read the Quran and he summarized parts of the Quran through his own words. So we're studying his words to understand the Quran better. So we're studying his book and his words, ﷺ, which are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you do this, you're guaranteed 4 things. The serenity and tranquility will descend upon you. The mercy of Allah will envelope and smother you. The malaika will surround you, and Allah will speak of you amongst those who are in His audience. And then he concludes this beautiful hadith by saying, وَمَنْ أَبْطَأَ بِهِ عَمَلُهُ لَمْ يُسْرِعْ بِهِ نَسَبُهُ. And whoever their deeds do not move them or hasten them forward on the sirat yawm al-qiyamah, their lineage won't. Whomever their deeds, if your deeds don't move you forward yawm al-qiyamah towards where you want to go, like towards Jannah or towards khair, your lineage and your nobility and your background won't. It's your deeds that will take. It doesn't matter who you're related to and what your name is and what you look like. It doesn't matter. That's what he's saying this alayhi salatu to teach his own people, to teach Quraysh and his family that if your deeds don't take you far yawm al-qiyamah, your relation to me won't. Your relationship to Ibrahim alayhi salam or Ismail alayhi salam won't. It's not your nasab, which is your lineage and your heritage. It's your amal, it's your good deeds. And that's why we all have to try our best. So it's not enough to come from a family of salihin. Be surrounded by good people. You have to be yourself one too. So the value of service in Islam, right? Man nafasa, man yassara, man satara, wallahu fi awni al-abdi. The concept of just being in service of people. This is really all it is. If you want to simplify Islam and make it really easy, just not really, because it can get complicated if you can confusing if you start overwhelming yourself. It's very simple. You just be in service of people. That's it. Every time you're in a situation, is this, what's the way? Am I serving or am I controlling? Am I serving others? Or am I serving myself? Am I serving others? Or am I trying to push my agenda or get what I want out of things that I'm acting like I'm serving? Are you serving them? Are you actually doing it for them? Or are you doing it for some maslahah and dunya of yourself? If you're serving them and the maslahah and the benefit is in akhirah, then there you go. You figured it out. I'm going to remove your difficulty so that Allah removes mine Yawm al-Qiyamah. I'm keeping track. So Yawm al-Qiyamah, I expect these number of difficulties to be removed from me because I removed them. That's fine. That's what you should be doing. Right? The value of seeking knowledge in Islam, the importance of just living life as a lifelong learner, trying to always push yourself forward with the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided for you. I don't understand Muslims who don't do that. I don't understand how they understand their deen if they don't do this. If it's not, you keep on learning. You're always reading something new. You're always listening to something new. You're always trying to improve your comprehension of something. It's a beautiful thing. It keeps your mind sharp and it keeps your heart in the right place. The value of gathering to learn the Quran in Islam, of just coming together to do it, right? And the ajr that exists of just coming to the masjid and listening to a dars or listening to a khatira or listening to a lecture of some sort. Someone is trying to talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, explain something to you that you don't know or remind you of all that which you already know. But just doing that puts you in a very specific group. You have these 4 advantages, the sakina and the rahmah, the malaika and the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. And this is how we perform community building. Communities are built when people support each other. The communities are built when everyone is looking how to serve other people. When your focus is not how to benefit from the people around you, but rather how to serve people around you. When I don't see you as an opportunity for me to further myself, but I see in dunya, but I see you as an opportunity for me to further myself in akhirah by doing a favor for you, to help you. And if I do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of me and help me. And if you do good to others, good will be done to you anyways. But it's a way of looking at things. Do you see people as opportunities to take something for yourself in dunya, or you see people as an opportunity to give them something in dunya so that you may take it back Yawm al-Qiyamah? And that changes the whole equation, and it changes the nature of the relationship, and it changes how you see the world. It is a very specific thing here. What we're talking about when we speak is very hard sometimes. Like when I did the 7-episode series this year about Islamic philosophy, it's a very hard thing to do because it's so foreign to how people think. Like I have to take something that is almost the opposite of how the world functions and put it for you within a paradigm of how the world thinks when we don't think the same way. When we are trained as Muslims to see people as opportunities for us to get closer to Allah by serving them, by helping them, not the opposite. Not looking, how can I benefit from this? How can I take something from this? How do I further my career or my business or my status or my popularity or my wealth? When it's absolutely the opposite of all of that. You see people with the lens of how do I do something for them? How do I fix a problem for them? I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. How do I help them do better? So that Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah does the same for me. This is absolutely fun. This is a completely different way of seeing the world. There's no question. And it's very foreign. You're surrounded by those who don't see the world that way at all. And this is a fundamental difference that we carry as Muslims in our lives, where we look around, but then we live with people who think that way long enough, and then we become like them. Then masajid start seeing dollar signs walking in. It's a dollar sign, big dollar sign, small dollar sign. The smaller the dollar sign, the less important. Stand هناك. The bigger the dollar sign, تعال تفضل. Stand up here. Everyone gives salams to the dollar sign because you never know. Maybe this dollar sign, he gives us a little bit of the dollars that he has. No dollars with you? The door is that way. Just pick up. When masajid start to treat people that way, when we start to look at people that way, when we only go and look for the people who have wealth and have background and we want to bring them to our groups and we want to exclude all the fuqara and the masakin, isn't that exactly the opposite of what the Prophet ﷺ did? Isn't that literally the opposite of how he lived? I don't even understand how do you rationalize that to yourself? How do you allow that mentality to seep in? Where does that come from? And how foreign is that to Muhammad alayhi's approach? He literally he prolonged the story of Islam to make sure that Bilal and Suhaib and Ammar and sat there with him, and no one, and he made sure that they became names that are being talked about. What is the odds of a slave from Abyssinia being talked about? What are the odds of his name becoming an anthem, his name becoming a statement, like his name becoming a well-known name across the world? What are the odds of some slave who never made wealth and never ruled anything? Think about this. This person never ruled. He never had wealth. He never had status, and yet today we name our children Bilal. Why? Because we want them to be like this poor, who doesn't even know his parents, radiallahu anhu. Who didn't even know who his parents were. He grew up with nothing all his life, radiallahu anhu. How do you do this? How do you do this? Sometimes I feel we have nothing to do with this. Wallahi, I feel like I just turn off these. Just go home and wait for the Dajjal or whoever's going to come, whoever's coming next. Because it's so foreign to us. Alayhi salam, he functioned different. Wallahi, my sheikh, I tell this story a couple of times. Sheikh Shukri, Allah yarhamu. I don't know how he know this, and I never will, because he passed away. I told him I was going to Canada, so he gave me a amana. This is not the story, but he told me Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala baraka fihim. Allah gave them barakah. I told him I'm going to where the United States is, Sheikh. He's like, yeah, he gave them barakah. It's like America, Sheikh. Like, yeah. He doesn't know where it is, but yeah, they gave him barakah. He said, I thought maybe, and he's like, yeah, what do they have written on that statue of theirs? Ever read what they have written on the Statue of Liberty? Give me your, what is it? Give me your poor. It's like give me your poor, your discarded, so because of that, they have barakah. I don't know how you knew this, because I didn't even know this. I have no idea what was written. I have no idea what's written. Look it up tonight. Like, أعطوني فقراءكم ومساكينكم. He told me. That's what they said. They said that. Allah أعطاهم barakah. They told the world, give me, you don't want, who are the people that you don't want in the world? Send them to us. We'll take care of them for you. We'll keep them here. That's his understanding. That was his understanding of things. An ummah that doesn't care for their weak and their poor. So the last piece, and we'll go for salam. Every hadith I just attach to it a piece of ilm al-hadith that I want you to know. Read these, please, because they're on the exam. I'll ask you questions about them. So for this one, it's very simple. I just put a summary for you of who Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari radiallahu anhu was. Who was Imam Bukhari? When did he live? What year did he die? Radiallahu anhu. And what did he write? It's important to know Imam Bukhari, obviously, and a few things. So there's a few. He was born in Bukhara. Today, Bukhara is Uzbekistan. Right? So, by the way, a lot of the stands over in the east are like extremely heavy with Islamic heritage and Islamic history. And no one goes and sees, like Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. These are places, people don't never go to. But if you were to look up some of the main Islamic cities where great Islamic teachers, and I always do this when I talk about but great Islamic ulama came from, you'll find them somewhere in those cities. And these cities were like the center of the world for hundreds of years, And today, of course, they've been reduced to much less than that. But it's worth kind of knowing. So knowing where Imam Bukhari was born. He was born in modern day Uzbekistan, and he died in 870 AD. So we're talking quite a long time ago, and yet his work lives on till today. It's read in every masjid across the globe, and will continue to do so. The second person you should know about, Imam Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj, ibn Muslim ibn Ward ibn Kushad al-Qushayri and-Naysaburi. In fact, he was born in Naysabur, which is again in the middle of what is Khurasan, present day Iran, where Iran is today. That's where Imam Muslim was born. Most of the scholars of hadith, by the way, are not Arab, and were not born in Arab countries, and did not speak Arabic as their first language, and learned it later on, and of course became great scholars of hadith. We're talking about the two guys who, without them, a lot of the Sahih hadith we don't have access to. But we have access to today because of these two individuals, and their stories. So read a little bit about them. I'll end with that, inshallah ta'ala. Subhanallah bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Jazakumullahu khairan. Barakallahu fiikum. Inshallah, we'll continue next week. We'll do hadith number 37, 38, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.